All right, let's jump right in. We all have this idea, right? That to really change our lives, we need some huge, dramatic moment. But what if this secret to getting incredible results is actually a lot smaller? Today, we're going to break down the big ideas from James Clear's Atomic Habits and see how these tiny 1% changes can lead to, well, remarkable outcomes. But hey, first, let's get real for a second. Why is it so unbelievably hard to stick with good habits? You know the drill. You start a new workout plan, you swear you're going to read every single night, or maybe you decide to learn a new language. You're all in for a few days, maybe even a week, and then, poof, it just kind of fades away. Does that sound a little too familiar? Well, here's a thought from the book that might just change how you see things. The problem isn't you. Seriously, you don't have a lack of motivation or willpower. The real problem is your system. Bad habits keep showing up not because you don't want to change, but because you've got the wrong system for it. So if you want different results, you can't just grit your teeth and try harder. You've got to change the whole game plan. And that new game plan, it all starts with what he calls the magic of 1%. It's this kind of counterintuitive idea that the biggest results don't come from one massive effort, but from all these tiny, consistent improvements that stack up over time. And believe me, this isn't just some nice theory. Let's look at the incredible story of British cycling. For almost 100 years, these guys were, well, they were mediocre, total mediocrity. Then, in 2003, they bring in this new coach, Dave Brailsford, and his whole strategy was something he called the aggregation of marginal gains. Basically, he went looking for a 1% improvement in everything. I mean, everything. More comfortable bike seats, tires with better grip, even finding the most effective massage gels and teaching riders the right way to wash their hands so they wouldn't get sick. The result? It's nuts. In just 10 years, the team won 178 world championships and 66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals. A complete, stunning turnaround, all built on tiny, tiny changes. The math behind this is it's staggering. I mean, look at this. If you get just 1% better every single day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. No, because of compounding, you end up almost 37 times better. But look at the flip side. Getting 1% worse each day doesn't feel like a big deal, right? But over a year, it just grinds your progress down to almost nothing. These little habits, whether they're good or bad, are basically the compound interest of your own self-improvement. And this whole thing, it works both ways. On the positive side, small, steady habits build up into these huge wins. Saving a little bit of money regularly, that grows into financial freedom. Reading just a few pages a day, that becomes this massive well of knowledge. But negative compounding is just as powerful. That one unhealthy meal seems harmless. Making one little excuse to procrastinate feels so minor. But you let those 1% errors stack up, and over time, they turn into really serious problems. Okay, so if this is all so powerful, why do we give up so easily? This brings us to a really, really important idea, the plateau of latent potential. This explains that super frustrating time when you feel like you're putting in all the work, but you're just not seeing any results. See, we expect our progress to be this nice, neat, straight line. We put in the effort and we want to see the reward right away. But that's not how it works. In reality, the most powerful results are delayed. And that gap, the space between what we expect to happen and what's actually happening, that's the valley of disappointment. It's that spot where all our efforts feel totally wasted, and it's exactly where most of us quit. Usually right before the big breakthrough. Here's a perfect way to think about it. Picture an ice cube in a really cold room. You start slowly warming the room up from -4 degrees Celsius to -3 to -1, and what happens? Nothing. Visibly, nothing happens. The ice cube just sits there. But all that energy, all that work, it isn't wasted. It's being stored. And then you hit 0 degrees, and that one final little push triggers this massive change. Your habits, they work exactly the same way. It's like what the social reformer Jacob Riis famously said about a stonecutter. It's not the final blow that cracks the rock, it's all the ones that came before it. Every single small action is storing up energy. It's building pressure, right up until that breakthrough moment. So how in the world do we stick with it long enough to actually see that breakthrough? Well, this is where we need to make a pretty big shift in our thinking. It's time to kind of forget about goals and focus on our systems instead. The difference here is super simple, but it's also really profound. A goal, that's the result you want. Winning a championship. A system, that's the process that leads to those results. It's how you recruit players, how you manage the team, what you do in practice every single day. Goals are great for setting a direction, but it's the systems that actually make the progress happen. And here's the thing, focusing only on goals can cause a bunch of problems. First off, winners and losers often have the exact same goals. I mean, every single Olympian wants to win a gold medal, right? So the goal itself isn't what separates them. Second, hitting a goal is just a momentary change. Sure, you can clean your messy room, but if you don't change your messy habits, it's just going to get cluttered all over again. Goals can also pin all your happiness on just one outcome, and they can lead to this yo-yo effect. I mean, what happens after you run a marathon? What's supposed to motivate you to keep running then? Okay, so if systems are the answer, how do we actually go about building one? Let's make this really practical. We're going to design a system for a super common goal, building a solid reading habit. All right, step one, your system has to have a solid foundation. You've got to figure out why you even want this habit. Is it for your career, to get ahead? Is it just to learn about new things, like neuroscience or psychology? Maybe to expand your vocabulary, or hey, maybe it's just for pure enjoyment. Knowing your why is what gives the whole system its purpose. Okay, next, you take that why and you turn it into a real plan. Don't just say, I want to read more. That's too vague. Get specific. Maybe your goal is read 5 books by this specific author. Then you can create a super simple project board, with columns like want to read, currently reading, and finished. And then you break it down into things you can actually do. Read 20 pages. That's a task you can literally schedule in your calendar. Now, here's the real engine of your system, the daily routine. You want to set a tiny, totally achievable micro goal, like just 10 pages or 15 minutes. That's it. Block out all distractions, turn off those social media notifications, find a specific, cozy spot that's just for reading, and maybe create some nice little rituals around it, like making a cup of tea or grabbing a comfy blanket. The point is to make it something you actually look forward to. But look, building the habit is really only half the battle, right? You also want all that great knowledge to actually stick. So let's look at a few tools to help reinforce what you're learning and make this habit truly valuable. Honestly, one of the most powerful tools out there is simply taking notes. When you actively think about and summarize what you've just read, you're not just passively recording it. You're actually engaging with the material. And that process helps build new pathways in your brain and creates this personal knowledge base you can tap into for years to come. And you've got a ton of great methods to choose from. There's the Cornell method, which is super structured for deep dives. You could use mind maps to visually connect different ideas. There's even a system called Zettelkasten, which helps you link individual ideas across tons of different books, like building a second brain. Or, you could just write a review on a blog, or even just tell a friend what you learned. The key here is to process the information, not just consume it. And before we wrap up, here is a final and honestly, a pretty liberating piece of advice. Please, don't be afraid to quit a boring book. Seriously, life is way too short to slog through something that just isn't working for you. A good system is supposed to be flexible. It should serve you, not the other way around. So let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. Real lasting success, it comes from your daily habits, not from some huge once-in-a-lifetime transformation. If you want to get there, focus on your system, and the results will pretty much take care of themselves. And remember, your efforts are never, ever wasted. They're just accumulating in that plateau of latent potential. And finally, make your habits stick by making them practical, creating routines and rituals, and using tools to reinforce everything. And all of this really brings us to one final, simple question. And this one's for you. It's not about what you're going to do next year or even next month. It's about right now. What is the 1% improvement you're going to make today?